Wasn't any.
Okay. I hope the microphone is on now and all of you can hear me.
Okay.
Good. Well, I became president of the club in 1988. And so what I'm going to do is to try to bring you up to date on what has happened in the last 6 years. First of all, as we said, as each of our preceding speakers has said, we felt that one of the most important functions of our club is to encourage members to meet and to share ideas and thoughts, not only with our colleagues, our former colleagues, but also with others in the university family. And in this particular setting, it's very easy to do that. As you can tell, social activities are by far the most important. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about the 3 that are most important, that are most widely celebrated in our group. First of all, our coffee hours. I know that Faith must hate to see Wednesday morning come because we managed to fill the hall and make lots of noise. I think maybe this morning, or yesterday morning, there may have been as many as 80 people here for coffee. But the coffee hours have been just a tremendously effective social event. And it does bring together those of us who are in town, those of us who are out of town for a while, come back and share ideas with others. In fact, the coffee hours have been so popular that this year, for the first time, we decided to continue the coffee hours during June, July, and August. Normally, we finished about the 15th of June. But they have been very popular, and I'm sure that next year's group will continue with the same general arrangement. Another very important social event have been the birthday parties. This is a very good example of the kind of crowds we have for each of the birthday parties. Everybody enjoys not only singing happy birthday and welcoming one another, having our cake and coffee or water or whatever, but it is a wonderful social event, and we really do thank our first person who set that up. That was Betty Marsloff. The third aspect that is so socially involved, that involves so many of us socially, are the potluck dinners. The last potluck dinner, which was in July, a new event, we had 100 people signed up for it. Now, 100 people in a small area like this is quite an event. And what we did, we ate in this room, but the food was actually served from the Adam Lounge, and the wine was served in there likewise. But those 3 kinds of social events have been really by far the most popular. We've had other social events that have not done quite so well. First of all, the pre-concert dinners. It may be the fact that the cost is a little high and that we no longer have the bus that will take us from here to the League Center, may cut back on the number of us who go to the pre-concert dinners. But whatever, we still are continuing them. It may be one of the social events that we will eventually discard down the road. Another event are our card and game parties. At one time, this room was filled with people who wanted to play bingo, dominoes, bridge, and the other card game. Whose name is Yeah, that's right, canasta. Today, or not today, but in recent months, the card parties have decreased in numbers. I can rationalize about that by saying that the Learning Club has its own parties, card parties and lunch. That may cut back on ours. In addition, Albemarle Country Club has done the same thing. They have their own group also. So if in the future we decide we don't need the card parties anymore, we of course will drop those too. But we're not only just a social group. I think we have to remember that all of us live within a university environment, and many of us have special interests. Bailey has talked about the wonders of the club, the computer club. I'd like to talk about not only the computer club and its need for more space, but also the music activities. The music group, people come in and are sitting on the floor in our music room because we don't have enough room for them to have access to a larger area. But those 2 activities are already outgrowing our space. But those are just two of the interest groups that we need to be that we have set up, and I think they'll be expanding as time goes on. Now, in terms of the computer group, Bailey didn't mention, but the members of the computer group have set up kindergarten and preschool classes for those of us who don't know a bit from a byte. And so we're hoping that more of us will learn a little bit more about computers. They are the future, and people like me need to get more involved in it, but I haven't done that quite yet. In terms of music, we have access now to 2 TV monitors. We have a wonderful collection of CDs, of cassettes. We have some operas already available now, and we'll be making those available to you. You can check out the operas through Shirley Griffith to this year for home use. We do expect you to bring them back in very good condition. Otherwise, we might send you a bill. Now, over the years, what has happened to the other interest groups? Well, first of all, let's talk about the birding group. Bailey mentioned it, and it has dropped by the wayside. We didn't have enough people who wanted to do birding anymore. Creative writing also fell by the wayside, but we do have 3 years of work done by the creative writers in our library. And those 3 booklets are there for you to look at and see what some of our members were doing in that particular group. Investments also has fallen by the wayside. Evidently, we all have enough money to pay our dues. But they have dropped. Then I remember back in '88, I wanted to get a great books group started. Well, I tried every year. Finally, in 1992, we got started with Great Books. And we had a very nice group. Sometimes as many as 15 of us would gather. But after the first year, we changed the format. Our group didn't want those short episodes from the Great Books series, and so this year, would you believe, we have read the Iliad, the Odyssey, and the group yesterday met and also read Medea. And so, you see, we become more intellectual as a result of getting together and seeing what it is we really enjoy. Now, also this year, we have some brand new events, new interest groups. And more of these are going to come about, I am sure. This new one is one that was also sponsored by Shirley, and it's called the Opera. It's the afternoon at the Opera, and the coordinator is Jim Seaver, our wonderful opera buff. And this year, there were 2 afternoons of the opera. The first one, of course, was Don Giovanni, and the second one was Madame Butterfly. And this year, they're planning to have 3 similar events. And you see, with two wonderful monitors, you can see these from any room or any place in the room itself. One of the groups that was mentioned earlier is the National Forum Group. Now, that's not new. I should have mentioned that earlier. That started from the very beginning, and Jack Bauer started that, and it has been ongoing, and it has kept a membership of somewhere up to 15 people. Now, we did mention travel, and I'd like to make a few comments about travel. In 1988-89, we had a wonderful set of chairs. We had Elmo Lindquist and Ro People. The 2 of them worked very closely with Ken Snyder, and they planned a trip a month. And the trip that, of course, stands out most in my mind, and certainly in the minds of several of you, I'm sure, is the trip that we made in the spring of '89 when we went down to Bartlesville. The Endacotts were our hostesses and hosts. And Paul Endacott was on the bus, and he showed us Bartlesville as probably no other native of Bartlesville could have done. As a result of that particular trip, at least 4 of us from then on went down every year for the Mozart Festival. They have an absolutely fantastic community building that has a fantastic set of rooms for various kinds of music events. But this year, plenty of Amby and I and Bill and Edwina Gilbert would go down every year for those, for the festival, for the week of the festival. We couldn't stay for the whole week, but we'd stay for 3 or 4 days of it. And we learned a tremendous amount from it. But then this year, 15 members from the club went down to Bartlesville and had a really wonderful time. Although Paul's wife was in the hospital, he came and joined us and met every one of our 15. And for some of us, or for some people in the group, it was the first time that they had met Paul Endacott. We were sorry they couldn't meet Lucille, but you know, in the card, or in the little booklet that you have now, if you paid your dues, you have a picture of Lucille and Paul, and that picture was taken in 1992 and was lent to us for that purpose. Now also we have a few other kinds of travel, and that is our out-of-town travel to the theater. Now the theater group is run by Leland Goff, and last year at one of the birthday parties, we all enjoyed a review of one of the plays that he had put together from a short story, and it was The Golden Honeymoon. And everybody enjoyed it so much that he proceeded to take it to Las Vegas, and we all performed in it at Las Vegas at the a celebration that's put on by the University of Nevada at Las Vegas. So we do thank Leland for that, and this year he hopes to take another group to do the same thing. But also he keeps us reminded every time of all of the plays that are in a process here in this general area, Topeka, Kansas City, Lawrence. We also have a group called Play Readers, and I see Arnold Weiss sitting over there. He was the one who organized it, and we've been meeting regularly since 1988, and we read plays everywhere from things like The Dollhouse to one that's called something like The Story of Lorraine. I don't have quite the right name, but it's one that's it's been published but not acted. And it's the story of a rejuvenated Joan of Arc, a little gal who decides she's going to be Joan of Arc and arrives in this town, gets all of this wonderful publicity. But that's really a fun group, and we thoroughly enjoy it. Now, another group that I think you need to be aware of also is the benefits group. Now, this is a brand new one also, and I kept it toward the last because it's doing something a little bit different. It's not involving as many of us, but what it does, Grant Goodman now represents us with the benefits group in Topeka. We're now the recognized agent for the retirees in that group. And not only does Grant do that, but he also has been providing us with calendars from the university. He's now in charge of making sure our names and addresses and telephone numbers are correct in the directory that comes out every year, and other wonderful benefits such as that. If you have any problems with your benefits, your health benefits, need help with Red Cross or with Blue Cross Blue Shield, you can always get in touch with Grant if you can find him. Now he's in Tokyo right now, but I'm sure. So now we mentioned, or I think it was Bill who mentioned in his brief comments, that we do have a constitution and a set of bylaws. In 1988, we decided that we probably didn't need a constitution, and we did revise the bylaws. They are much more efficient. And then they were revised a couple of years later to add the editor of the newsletter as an officer. And in '89, we added all of the chairs of the interest groups as members of the executive board. We did that because we wanted everyone to feel more a part of the actual monitoring of the club that we know so well. One other thing I'd like to mention, and that is finances. For $10 a year, each of us obtain a tremendous variety of activities. However, the rest of the money comes from the Expression of Appreciations Fund. And that fund, you may remember, Bill talked about. We had hoped that it would grow and grow, and it has to some extent. And this year, I don't know what percentage of the social program will be funded by the Expression of Appreciation Fund, but a fair amount of it will be. This year, the two paintings that are in the library, all of you should take a look at if you haven't. Those were purchased primarily, not completely, but primarily with money that had been given in honor of Bill Gilbert when he died. And they are now there for our enjoyment. They make our library a much warmer place for us to work in, or to read in, or to do whatever we wish. In addition, many of you made a contribution when Peg Saricks died. And Peg, of course, loved all kinds of good food. And so what I did was to partially provide part of the dinner for a pre-concert dinner. And that came from the Expression of Appreciation funds that you people contributed to, you and your friends. And it made it a very delightful evening. Over 100 people participated in that particular event. Before leaving travel again, I just want to remind some of you older folks who came into the club the same time that we did, that we used to have we had an armchair travel group. We felt that some of our people couldn't really travel and very, very far. So we set up the armchair travel group. It was one of Peg's ideas. And the very first one we held in our library. And we said to one another, well, maybe there'll be 10 or 12 people there. There was also another luncheon that the University Women's Club was sponsoring. But we were talking about China, and we had all kinds of goodies from China to show. At that particular event, we had 50 people sitting on the floor and on the few chairs we had in there. And so Armchair Travelers has continued ever since and is really a wonderful opportunity for those of us who can't get to all these places anymore. And finally, I'd like to make just one other comment, and that is in terms of the newsletter. Remember what we said, what Bailey said? At one time, all we had was a little card, a 4x6 card, on which we could put the information that we needed for us to have various social events. And I just wanted to show you what it must have been like. On this card, we had everything that was going on. This is our current newsletter, now put out by Edwina Gilbert as editor. 10 pages of goodies for all of us. And this is possible only because of all of the opportunities provided by the Endacotts. I just want to show you something that does appear out in the hall, and I think you're going to get copies of it sometime during the year in your newsletter. But this is the form in which you can make contributions to the Expressions of Appreciation. And if you would like to pick up these copies, you certainly may do so. I think it would be just tremendous, for us to contribute to continue to contribute to that, so that we can have even more and more social events and keep our membership dues down to just $10. Now, I'd like to end by just saying that our newsletter does give us a written record of how far we have come in a very short time. In 11 years, think of what we've been able to do. Last year, our membership was 426 people. We expect this year it will be close to 500. And all of this is ours because of the generosity and the foresightedness of Paul and Louise and Lucille Endacott and their family. And so I would like to say cheers to our benefactors, and may we continue to enjoy all the benefits that they have provided to us. Thank you.
Do you want to take questions, or shall we just? One moment, please.
One moment.
Technical difficulties.
Yes.
Good, Kate, what'd you do? I hope that you profited as much from that as I did. It was a good learning experience. Some of you knew this. Good to be brought up to date. For some, it was new information. So now we're all at the same place. And I noticed Jim Martin's eyes light up when Peg mentioned money. Is that right? Okay. The panel 3, our time is almost over, but do you have any questions that you would like to direct to any of the 3? Yes?
Mention one other activity, the receptions for new retirees. I think Shirley Griffin.
Yes, I think Peg says, yeah, right. And that has been a wonderfully received activity, followed by the lovely dinner that the Endowment Association provides for retired faculty.
Right.
Those dinners that we have throughout the year, although not just a function of the Retirees Club, are something that everyone turns out for, and do we love them. Thank you, Jim. Any other questions?
Let me just mention, I think Colleen Ryan has left, but the lead ambassador